This review of Thor Love and Thunder is spoiler-free. Anything mentioned in it you will have seen in a trailer, and if you haven't watched the trailers, nothing that I'm going to say will give away anything in the film. So let's get to the review. Thor Love and Thunder is heavy metal thunder. It is heavy metal incarnate. As a gigantic heavy metal fan, it's so satisfying to see the sort of renaissance that the genre is going through, this reclamation almost of the music and going back into popularity with stuff like Stranger Things 4, bringing Metallica to the forefront, and now Thor Love and Thunder bringing all this heavy metal imagery together, in addition to all the great action that you would expect from an MCU movie with Chris Hemsworth and Taika Waititi, and Natalie Portman and Tessa Thompson all starring in this one. It's directed by Taika Waititi, it's written by Taika Waititi, and Jennifer Caton Robinson is the other co-writer on the script. And this is just basically like if a Terry Gilliam movie had a baby with the MCU and a heavy metal album cover, is the best way that I can describe the film. It packs in so much vivid imagery, so much just descriptive, such colorful backgrounds and everything you can think of in this film. It's crazy to think that we've gone from Thor: The Dark World, which was the last film that we saw Natalie Portman in as Jane Foster, to this. And that transformation is what makes Thor such a special character in the hearts of people. I think like Tony Stark was like the flag bearer for the MCU. I think Thor might be the new flag bearer, especially after this film, because he's so great in it. Chris Hemsworth brings such a larger-than-life feeling to the role, but also makes it feel just like you or I would. If we were put in this situation where our ex-girlfriend comes back after 4 years of not seeing each other with your old Thor hammer, and she's now the mighty Thor. It does stuff like that, and then some with the characters and just the representation that we get here. And then, of course, there's all the monsters and the villain in Gorr the God Butcher, played by Christian Bale. And to get Christian Bale to come back to do an MCU movie, you had to have a role that gave him just some sheer heft, some sheer meat on the bone here for him to work with. And Gorr is one of the most captivating and fascinating villains that they've had in the MCU. He gets the same sort of treatment as Thanos, where he is a massive threat to Thor. He's a massive threat to all the other gods in existence. But yet, he's captivating, and you almost want to root for him because of his circumstances. But it's really nice that they don't give away most of what his background is. You get to see, it answers that question of why does this guy want to kill all the gods really, really quickly in the film. But outside of that, you don't get very much of where Gorr came from. It's left up to your imagination, or of course the people from the comics that have read his background to sort of piece that together. Outside of that, Jane Foster as the mighty Thor is, wow. She's so human, but also not, because she becomes a Norse god here as the mighty Thor with Mjolnir, the hammer. But she feels very much like if you or I became Thor, what would happen? Why am I thinking about catchphrases? What am I'm oh no, I need to pay attention to how I'm landing, how I look as a god, as a superhero. She's just so refreshing and so sort of full of life in this role, and it's such a nice contrast to Jane Foster in Thor: The Dark World, where it was kind of like Natalie Portman's under contract, she's here because she has to. That's kind of what it is. This film does not feel like that, and like Christian Bale, you needed a role that had some heft to it to get Natalie Portman back as this character. The Guardians of the Galaxy are also in the film, but they're not in it for very long. That makes a lot of sense, because after all, this is Thor's movie. This is his story. But the Guardians add a lot to it. They add to the humanity of Thor. They add to the comedy of the film, where a lot of them just have this just massive disdain for Thor and why he's there. Star-Lord's interactions with him are hilarious. You do get a bit of the Guardians here, but they're not there for very long. And it's more than an extended cameo, but it sends them off on their way to Guardians of the Galaxy 3, so you get that to look forward to. But the Guardians are hilarious. They're great. The action scenes with them that they're in are top-notch. And once they're on their way, the movie really gets set off. Talking about the soundtrack, I've said a lot about heavy metal. There's a lot of Guns N' Roses in the soundtrack. If you don't think Guns N' Roses are heavy metal, I don't know, kiss my ass or something. Who cares? No one cares what you think. But there's a lot of heavy metal imagery. There's some heavy metal tracks on the soundtrack. There's one that I was sitting there at the premiere. I had to grip the hand rests to not have my hand slowly curl up like this and start air guitaring to one of the songs in the credits of the movie. So stick around to the credits to get an excellent experience of listening to a wonderful heavy metal song with an entire theater of people. And also stick around for the post-credit scene because it is an MCU movie. There is a post-credit scene. There's 2 of them. So stick around for those. The visuals here, like I said before, it's just absolutely vibrant and just beautiful and just a feast for your eyes to look at. Seeing this film in IMAX, like go see it in IMAX. It's really the best way to see it. And it's just such a wonderful experience to see all these colors popping, but then also, this is a scene from the trailer, so it's not spoiling anything. There's the scene where they go to Gorr's sort of hideaway, his hideout, and it goes to black and white. And some of the color bleeds through, but it's all black and white. And it is such a beautiful contrast to the just popping colors that you get elsewhere in the film. But that scene and that sequence in particular is really, really well done. It is really just all over amazing. Chris Hemsworth is just an utter god of a man in there. His muscles are gigantic, and he's just this hulking figure that challenges Gorr. Gorr is slender, but he's powerful, and he has the sword, and he's just so menacing when it comes to that scene. And it's just, it turned it for me like completely on Gorr. Up to that point, I was like, he's kind of a fine villain. He's a little scary. Christian Bale's pretty goddamn charismatic. But up to that point and then past it, oh my gosh. And it's just from there and on, that's when he really hits his stride and hits the point where it's like, yeah, this guy is one of the best MCU villains that they've had. He's just so well-rounded as a character, and it's just such a great performance by Christian Bale. It's really up there because he really makes you feel, and you're like, God, like, this guy, I kind of really want to root for him, but Thor is there, and Thor is just so charismatic. But Gorr, Thor, they're all great. It's Thor 4 also, there you go. The impact of this film. Now let's talk about that because a lot of people want to complain about the runtime. It is about 2 hours long. If you want to complain about the runtime of this movie, I'm sorry, you're spoiled. Because you're spoiled from Avengers Endgame, you're spoiled from Spider-Man No Way Home, from Infinity War being like 2 hours and 40 minutes to 3 hours, 2 hours, 2.5 hours. We went through this with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. The runtime doesn't matter. The runtime for this film, feels pretty damn perfect to where it gets the story going, it gets you in there, and then it gets you out without having to be there and bogging itself down in this just massive, multiversal scope of a film. You don't get any of that here. There's no multiverse shenanigans. There's none of that. You just have Thor's story, and that's it. And it's so much better for that because it feels like it's an extension of the MCU, but this one could stand alone by itself. If there was no other MCU movies, and this was just Thor the franchise, this would be a great film. And it just fits in so well to that story that we've been told with Thor and his humanity and just the punishment he's taken as a hero and the trauma he's undergone. I hate using that word, but just everything that's been happened to him is just on full display here, and he gets through it. And he's just a better man. He's a better god for it. Thor Love and Thunder, if I have to rate it, I'm going to give it a 4.75 out of 5 stars here. 5 Thor's hammers or whatever you want to say. It is a joy to watch. It is a joyous film. It is beautiful. It is stunning. The characters are great. There's a couple nitpicks you can make. It's that some of the CGI is a little bit on the weird side, especially like the scene in the trailer where Thor has the mask on. Just give him a mask. You don't have to put CGI on his face. It looks kind of stupid. Outside of that, other parts where there's CGI, they're great. So I don't know what they were doing. Maybe they just used a weird shot in the trailers or in the film. But outside of that, it's very small potatoes when it comes to this film being so much fun, so joyous. The performances are great. The characters get fleshed out. The script is great. Taika Waititi is a master of his craft. And it's a movie with heavy metal songs in it. You can't get much better than that. So that'll do it from me to you for now. Go see Thor Love and Thunder in theaters this Friday, July 8th. Go see it in IMAX. Go see it on the biggest screen possible with the loudest speakers you can, and you won't regret it. It's a great time at the movies, and thank you for watching, and I will see you again real soon.